the NFL's free agency season gets underway. Can talk, can't sign, but you can talk. And we plan on talking to one of our faves for the next 20, 25, 30 minutes from the 33rdteam.com and his stat package, a must on JAKIBSports.com in season. Paul Domowitch joins us here on Birds 365. Domi, you've been doing this for a long time, Eagle specific, but league in general as well. Is this a good time or bad time? Is it frustrating because it's all rumor before teams can actually make announcements? Do you enjoy this, or do you just say, like, come on, wake me up on Wednesday when we can actually get paperwork done?
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be many rumors. What you hear today is pretty much guys that have agreed to contracts that just, will be official in a couple of days. So, I mean, I never cared for this a whole lot because most of it is leaked through ESPN and the NFL Network.
Information brokers. I like our buddy Mike Sealski. He came up with that term. Yeah. I always give him credit.
You just sit here and wait for them to break it and confirm it.
Yeah. When did you get your accounting degree, Damo? Because we all need our accounting degrees with the salary cap. You remember when that became a thing? Now I spent half my life trying to figure out the salary cap.
Well, it's a good thing I got Joe Banner on the 33rd team.
Nice. There you go.
Joe's tremendous at the cap, but I did hear. I think Joe was on the Rich Eisen show, so we'll start there. And he mentioned if he were Jalen Hurts, he would wait. Because obviously he's not running the Eagles anymore, so he doesn't care. And if Joe Burrow goes first or Justin Herbert or even Lamar Jackson, who knows where that number goes. The Eagles have a history of wanting to get these things done early for good reason. Joe taught Howie, and Joe knows it's only going up. How quickly do you think the Eagles want to get this done with Jalen Hurts?
Yeah. Well, talking to Joe now is kind of funny because he gives you the management side, but he also gives you the agent side. I mean, the agent side is wait for these other guys to sign because you'll get $5 more than they will.
Yeah.
The downside to that is it just drags on the process. You get closer to the offseason program. My guess is both Jalen and the Eagles want to sign as soon as possible. I think he's going to end up being the first guy to sign out of that, out of the Burrow and Herbert group. So I don't think the unknown is that he's got an agent who's never handled a contract this huge before. Nobody has, but Nicole Lynn, this is, she's inexperienced as an agent.
She's got help though. I mean, she's got help.
I mean, so does Lamar Jackson's mother. How's that working out?
Yeah, that's where I was going next, Damo.
So, but I think that Jalen knows he wants to sign. He wants to get it done. He wants to do everything right. So I would think this deal gets done fairly quickly.
Yeah. See, I don't because of the name that you threw out there, Lamar Jackson. You need one domino to fall. You don't want to be the last domino to fall because they always go up, almost always go up. But one's got to fall first. And I don't know that Lamar is falling. And I don't know the first time cutting this big a deal for a player agent for Jalen Hurts wants to be the first one to fall either. No, I think the Eagles hang on to your hats. You're going to need a little patience for this. Well, you've been pretty patient. Go ahead, Dama.
I was just going to say the one thing, the one thing that makes Lamar's situation different, he's wanted a completely guaranteed contract. He wants a repeat of what Deshaun Watson got, and that's not going to happen. They would have been willing to pay him a lot of money. They just didn't want to. Now, the Baltimore didn't want to completely guarantee it, and they still don't, which is why it won't get done. Now he's playing this year under the franchise tag for $36 million, which is severely less than any of these guys are going to sign for.
So, and last thing on Lamar, and then I promise we'll move on. You think his response will be a week in, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks, whatever? All right, I was wrong. I got to take the best deal I can take. Or do you think he's going to stand tough like he has throughout this entire year and go, every penny guaranteed, every penny guaranteed? Don't talk to me unless every penny is guaranteed. What makes you think all of a sudden Lamar's going to go, Yeah, you guys were right. I was wrong.
No, I don't. I mean, I think he's going to stand there and be stubborn, and he's going to suffer, because when he eventually does sign with someone, it's not going to be completely guaranteed.
Yeah, and once you sign that franchise tag, you can't negotiate until the period when you can again. So you have that over. But getting back to, we'll shift it to the corners. We talk quarterback. Let's go cornerback, because all of a sudden, Darius Slay, the Eagles give Drew Rosenhaus permission to go, hey, look, see where the value is. James Bradberry's out there saying the Eagles have left the door open. Please come back to us. Tell us the deal you got. From my perspective, Damo, I don't think much has changed. We knew the Eagles had to work out some kind of extension with Slay because his cap number is $26 million or something. And with Bradberry, look, if the market isn't there, the Eagles would love to have him back. But if the market's there, they're going to get that contract and say, hey, thanks for playing, James. Thanks for the great season. That's how I take it. Do you take it any differently?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I think the only thing that I would add to it is, I mean, which one of these two guys would you rather have? You would rather have Bradberry than Slay.
Really?
Let's say
that's tough. That's tougher for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darius is at the end of his career. He's coming off a bad year, and there's not going to be a lot of takers out there for him at the kind of money he thinks he's going to get. But if they could trade him, it certainly would clear enough space. I don't know what the dead money is with his deal.
No, it's
pretty significant. It's pretty significant, even with a trade.
Yeah.
It's
like $21 million, even
22. Yeah, somewhere 21, 22. Yeah,
they don't really save enough to go out and be able to sign Bradberry. He's just going to have to live with it, because I mean, I don't think they really want to push any more money from veterans into the future. They're already lead the league in dead money. They're looking at 2024 when they're going to kind of, they're going to have all these draft picks for all the free agents they're going to lose this year, and kind of, I don't want to say rebuild, because they don't, they plan on contending this year, but next year is when you're going to be able to kind of build a foundation of young players with all those draft picks, assuming, you draft wisely.
Yeah. So real quick, sorry, Jody, just one quick. Do you think they could lose them both, Slay and Bradberry?
No, they have to keep one. I mean, that's the problem. They can get, I mean, with that number 10 pick, I think you can get because of the way things are going to fall in that draft with quarterbacks, with edge rushers in the first 9 picks. They should be able to get a plug and play cornerback at number 10, or a couple picks lower if they trade down. So, but they got to hang on to one of these guys, because they got nobody else on the roster that could be step in and start with that guy. I'm sure they'll try and do it kind of a thing like they did with Bradberry and Gardner Johnson. Go find a guy that's in that same situation, whose team doesn't want him, who's in a prove it situation, who's willing to sign a 1-year deal. But you got to keep one. You're probably right. It's probably going to be Slay with the dead, since they can't afford 20, they're not going to save much by letting him go.
Damo, not a believer in the book of Job just yet. Neither am I. So they're going to need another cornerback somewhere. All right. You talked about the restocking of the roster and getting younger and the like, but they got to keep one old guy first, and he's got to make a decision. And we would think it would be today, at the latest tomorrow, because free agency kicks in. And I agree with my partner, John McMullen. Isaac Seumalo's future with the Eagles is fairly well tied to Jason Kelce's 2023 season. Is he playing for the Eagles? Is he off into retirement? In the new age world in which we live, via social media and or a podcast, you can make your intentions known. It doesn't have to all be controlled by the team. How, when, and where are we going to find out whether Jason Kelce is playing this year?
I thought we'd know by now, Jody. I'm wondering if maybe Howie already knows. And I have no idea which way he's leaning. You can make arguments for for if you put yourself in his shoes, you can make arguments for why he should retire right now and why he might want to keep playing for at least another year. So I have no idea. I can't read his mind. If you're asking me, I would say he comes back because I don't think he wants to leave them in the lurch. They can replace Sayamalo with Cam Jurgens, but if he goes, then there's suddenly, then re-signing Sayamalo becomes a must, but it puts pressure on them with the cap. So, if you're asking me to guess, I would say in the next few days we hear that he's coming back.
Let's talk CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's another social media. Social media makes this even more complicated, Tomo, because he posted last week what a lot of fans took as a goodbye video. Now all of a sudden there's reports the Eagles are making a significant push to re-sign him. Obviously, they didn't want to put him under the franchise tag, and they don't like using the franchise tag, so that doesn't tell you much. They don't want a $14.46 million hit on the cap. But, Marcus Williams, they went at last year, who I was told they probably think is a better player, and they bailed out at $12 million. I don't think they want to go much higher. Now you have that built in each year. Everything gets a little bit higher. Where do you think they are with CJ Gardner-Johnson? Is he going to get overpaid? He's 20. That's the kind of guy people want to pay. He's 25 years old coming off his rookie deal.
Yeah. And I think, the fact that he can play in the slot, the versatility he's got makes him even more valuable to teams, including the Eagles. I thought the two guys that they would prioritize would be Hargrave and Gardner-Johnson. Hargrave is probably gone. After Daron Payne's contract, $90 million over 4 years. Javon's obviously going to want at least that, probably more. So, I think that's increased it's probably made them want to keep Gardner-Johnson even more. You can't lose a key cornerback and then also lose a guy like Gardner-Johnson inside that is as valuable as he is. If you have to overpay him somehow, some way, you find the money and do it.
All right. Got to ask you about another guy who's taking social media to potentially get his message out there. As John said, he and I had a slight disagreement on what CJGJ was doing last week with his highlight video, Twitter, and all the love Philadelphia. Of course, he's telling the world he's ready to leave Philly. Doesn't mean he's going to. Can always do the 180 thing, but he's laying the groundwork for it. Yesterday, right. Miles Sanders put out a tweet looking for anonymous love. Yeah, he's doing the same exact thing, Damo. That's what these guys do. They want to have a base underneath them that if they go elsewhere, they don't lose all their fans in a given town. They put it on the organization that, hey, I'm not saying I want to leave, but I got to be prepared to leave. Miles, I've continued to try and sell a narrative that, and Miles doesn't want to hear this, that the running back market is going to be so dry this offseason that nobody's going to give Miles the kind of money that Miles wants and thinks. And if it's all relatively the same, why not come back and play behind the best offensive line in football? That he comes back on a deal that looks good for the Eagles. Am I just wishful thinking here because I'm a fan? And is Miles as good as out of town?
Yeah, I can't find one good reason to resign him, especially if it costs any.
I'll give you one. He's the best back on the Eagles.
I'm not so sure about that. I think Kenny
Gainwell's better than he is.
I think he gives them a lot more in a lot of different ways. I think
he's more versatile. I'll say that.
Yeah. He's a bigger. He can
be up when Kenny Gainwell gets 11.
You know what I want to see him do? Here's what I want to see him do. I want to see them. Miles can. I'm so frustrated with watching him over the last 3 years take everything outside. I just can't. I don't want to see that anymore.
Okay.
So what I want to see them do is go out and sign Deonta Foreman. I want to see them sign a big back, an inexpensive big back. Deonta Foreman may cost more money than they're willing to spend because he's had a good year after Christian McCaffrey left Carolina. But somebody that can be a short yardage guy for them. I don't know. I'm thinking of some other people that are free agents. Mostart.
I'm going to give you a name because the guy I like, but it seems like Minnesota's trying to trade Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison. He
Absolutely.
is a north-south guy. He would be great behind this offensive line. I don't know about the RPO zone read stuff, though. That's my only concern.
Yeah.
But he goes north-south.
I think he would complement Gainwell very well. And depending on how this tush-push thing shakes out, I mean, Jalen's still going to be a threat on quarterback sneaks, but I think it increases the importance a little bit more on a running back being able to pick up that short yard.
Yeah, see, John and I kind of agree on this one. Eliminating the tush push could be a good thing for the Eagles.
I think it helps the Eagles.
Because
I really do.
Jalen's going to get it anyway.
Yeah.
He might have to work a little bit harder, but he's so good at it, he's going to convert. It takes the other teams out of the league of the ability to convert because they need the push more than Jalen needs to push. So I think that Eagle fans have their feathers in an uproar because they're just trying to screw the Eagles because they're good at something. Maybe, but it doesn't matter. If you're still going to be good at it and the other teams will be lesser, be thankful that they're going to change the rule.
If Kelsey comes back, I might agree with you. Because he's a key to that play.
Well, that's true.
Yes, sir.
If he doesn't, and if Sayamala leaves too, then it's not so easy.
You got a point.
Yeah, that's true. Defensively, we know Brandon's back. No surprise. I mean, Brandon's been very honest. He wants to play 15 seasons. He wants them all to come in Philadelphia. So if there was one guy that was going to come back on a team-friendly deal, I was going to guarantee it was Brandon Graham. Fletcher's a little bit different. Howie's admitted in the past he's been too loyal, especially after 2017 at times. They finally cut the cord with Fletcher Cox, or is that an either or? If they're going to lose Javon Hargrave, can they afford to lose Fletcher Cox?
Yeah, I find it hard to believe Fletcher would be willing to do a deal like Brandon did. He cares a little bit more about money and a little bit less about sentimentality and finishing his career with the Eagles than Brandon does. My guess. I mean, I there was never a scenario where I saw Fletcher re-signing with his team, and I still think that's the case.
Give me a number that you think Fletcher would take. What do you think if Fletcher Cox gets close enough to what he thinks his value is? And every player on the planet's value in their own mind is always inflated, but a reasonable number for Fletcher Cox, what do you think it would be?
Well, I mean, I think Fletcher is going to, unlike Brandon, is going to test the market first, and that'll tell him what he's worth. Fletcher's a guy, unlike Brandon, who would take it personally that they don't want to pay him. They're basically saying you're not the player you are. And they're also, last year they cut him to re-sign him at a lower number, which, he accepted. But something tells me there was a little bit of a hard feeling deep down inside. So, but the market's going to tell. I mean, if he goes out and finds there's no takers out there, then sure, he'll come back at a much lower price. And maybe it would be a number like Brandon, $6 million. But my guess is somebody is going to still like him enough out there to say, the Rams, I don't know who, but somebody will say,
Jim Schwartz, baby. Jim Schwartz.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I just don't see any scenario where he comes back.
Oh, by the way, all three of our buddies, Howard Eskin said he thinks about $4 million could get it done for Fletcher this year with the Eagles. I think that's completely wishful thinking. Fletcher's not getting anywhere near the 14 he got this past year, but he's getting more than $4
million. Oof.
Yeah. That was the number Howard put out there last week, which I thought was humorous. All right, so it's all Howie Roseman. It's Howie Roseman season. It's Howie Roseman's day today. The Hurts thing is the biggest thing he's got to get done. Kelsey's got to give him some guidance. Let's talk about a position that Howie has always put a tremendous amount of emphasis on, as I say, tongue-in-cheek, linebacker. Both Kaiser White and TJ Edwards are free agents. I think they both had outstanding years this past year. We know Nakobe Dean is going to be thrown in at one of the two linebacker positions this upcoming season. One of the two of the linebackers is going to end up elsewhere. We assume the other one's going to stay. How did the two Eagle free agent linebackers play themselves out starting today, Domo?
Well, if I'm Howie, the guy I want to keep is Edwards. Unfortunately, I think he's played himself into a real nice contract here or someplace else. He had 156 tackles. I mean, he just was. I mean, we watched him and couldn't believe, that. I mean, somehow he got faster, and that's almost that's almost impossible to do in football.
Give TJ Watt credit, because he works out with TJ Watt. He completely remade his body. He really did. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. But I'm with you. He might get paid more than people think.
It's still going to be, linebacker's still a position they aren't going to prioritize, even with the new defensive coordinator. But somebody's got to play it besides Dean. I mean, I think Nakobe Dean's going to be an impact player for them. But I would try to sign Edwards. I just don't know how. I mean, I don't. Howie is he's already painted this scenario that we're pretty much losing all of them, and boy, are we going to have a lot of draft picks next year.
Yeah, Howie said it twice. I'll end it there with you at P Damo on Twitter. Follow Paul the 33rd-team.com. Howie has said twice now. He said it in Indy. He said it before the season-ending press conference. We're going to lose players. Seems like nobody's listening to him. Band-wise. I mean, we're going to lose significant players. We're going to get compensatory picks in 2024. I think he's going to get 4 as the limit. I think they think they're getting 4. That means significant players are leaving this team. Why do you think people realize that? Do you think it's not latching on? Do you think Howie's playing a game, or do you think he's telling the truth?
No, Howie is not playing a game. I think fans just have a hard time accepting the fact that a team will let all this talent go. And if we weren't in a cap, if there weren't a salary cap, you wouldn't let all these guys go. But we are. They've pushed a lot of money over the years forward, and that combined with the fact that so many of these guys are looking for big money after the years they've had, and the fact that they've got to re-sign Jalen has put them in a situation where the best case scenario for them is to swallow hard, let most of them go, and try to make the most out of the draft picks you're getting for them.
Eagles, according to Paul Domowitch and John McMullen, are losing players. Yeah, they're right. They are losing players. They also lost a lot of coaches this offseason, Tomo. Certainly their 2 coordinators we know moved on to be head coaches. Other guys off the staff as well, more on the defensive side than the offensive side. How big a hurdle is that for the Eagles to get over? Because we rightfully pointed out this past offseason leading into the season that they end up in the Super Bowl. Not one change. They kept the entire staff intact. This year, bunch of changes. So if you're going to tell me it was a key that we kept everybody intact, you got to at least admit this is a hurdle that we got to get over with this many changes. How big a hurdle is it?
Offensively, I think, the Brian Johnson move is going to be fairly seamless. They've got still got Jeff Stoutland on that side of the ball. I don't think there'll be any problems there. I think I'm a big fan of Brian's, and I think he'll be fine. Even if he's calling the plays, he's got experience at that from college. Defense is another matter. They're pretty much almost replacing their entire defensive staff. The defensive backs coach and the linebackers coach, in addition to the coordinator. At the same time you're doing that, you're probably going to be replacing about 6 starters on your defense. That's kind of that's one or the other wouldn't be bad. If you're replacing these guys but still have Jonathan Gannon, that's one thing. Or if you're replacing your coordinator but you've got everybody back, that's another. The 2 together is a bad combination. This is a team that's going to have to win with its offense this year. There's going to be a major slippage on defense no matter what happens here. I don't see any scenario where they don't lose at least 5, probably 6 or 7 of their starters on defense. And finding, they've got the 2 first-round picks. They'll probably find at least 1 or 2 immediate starters there. But, whether they could step in and play right away, who knows?
And by the way, Damo, I mentioned even if Gannon came back, they weren't playing like they played this year. I feel I'm like the expectations are so out of whack for Sean Desai. I feel pretty bad for him. They're not getting 70 sacks. They're not leading the league. And I mean, this kind of stuff doesn't happen every year. The Eagles have been playing for a long time, 1933, I believe. They never had 70 sacks before. It's probably not going to go to 71. And that wasn't good enough, according to a lot of fans. So I feel sorry for Sean Desai.
Yeah. I mean, as important as an interior rush is and has been to their pass rush, I mean, if they lose, if Cox leaves, if Hargrave leaves, I mean, Jordan Davis, you expect to be better, but he's never been a pass rusher. You hope he'll develop in that role and be a threat in there. But so what do? Suddenly it may go to the top of their board as far as next to cornerback, as far as draft priorities.
Yeah, D tackle, that kid from Pitt, he's exploding off the board. He weighs 275 pounds. I don't know. They might go 350, 275 at defensive tackle.
Yeah, the yin and the yang of it. Damo, always a pleasure. Appreciate you jumping in with us today. We'll be reading on the 33rd team and looking forward to all your Eagle insights whenever you jump on with us here on Birds 365. Thanks, brother. Thanks
for having me, guys. Take care.
Paul Domowitch.
Thanks, Damo.
Jumping in.
Happy legal tampering day. If he hung on, I think he left.
The best sports oxymoron that there is, legal tampering, and it is now only 3 hours and change away. It does get underway today. And let's just put this out there, which you and I have done on many an occasion, but I think it needs to be restoked and reminded at this time. You don't win free agency in the first 6 hours of free agency.
No, you don't.
Some people expect that. Some people want that. Some people desire that. And if it doesn't happen, some people get all worked up and ticked off when it doesn't happen. You and I have been down this road. The Eagles didn't. How was it like day 2 or day 3 when they signed Reddick last year?
I think Reddick was early. It was either day 1 or day 2.
Relatively early. Might have been day 2.
Yeah.
And then screeching halt.
Yeah. Howie brought that up.
One biggie, and then it was again, I'll ask you to do some research for me. The only other one of consequence they made, and that was down the road a little bit, was Kaiser White. That was it. 2.
Yeah.
They had 2 guys that they signed. One pretty fast. The other one took a little bit, but they got it done. And then silence, crickets. They didn't do anything for weeks, months, but yet they found a way to add James Bradberry. They found a way to add CJ before the season started. Eagle fans, don't get nuts. And you may be ready to get nuts if a couple of guys jump ship early and sign contracts or during the legal tampering period agree to deals with new teams. This is not going to be a Eagles lose the Super Bowl but immediately get right back at it type day. Not happening.
No.
At best you can hope
30th.
for is somebody decides to stay who is an Eagle free agent as of today. That's it. They're not signing anybody else from any other team. Don't even go down that road.
August 30th is when the Eagles acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't even have to look that up. November is when they acquired Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Howie brought that up. Talent acquisition season isn't 2 days. It's months and months and months. And where the Eagles set themselves apart, you mentioned Bradberry as well. That's where they set themselves apart, getting the Bradberries, the Gardner-Johnsons, the Linval Josephs later in the process. Later in the process. Patience. Grasshopper, patience.
Yes, which yours truly is going to be on WIP tonight. I'll get all those very patient Eagle fans checking in, going, I'm going to sleep tonight, Joe. After I turn,
it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad early because so many of the high-profile free agents are Eagles, so they're going to get deals done quickly.
Not only will the Eagles not be adding, they'll just be losing. So, Howie, if you're a smart guy, you're smart to watch Birds 365. Thanks for doing that, big guy. Yeah, turn your radio off today. You don't need need to hear what's going to go down, because it's how do we let them get out the door? How do we not have? Yeah, it's not going to play well during legal tampering period. But it is a long time before the Eagles' first game of the season. All right, he's Mac. I'm Mac. That makes us Mac and Mac Birds 365. Eddie Kratz going to join us less than 25 minutes from now.
Back from Florida. He's going to have a tan. Kratz gets all tan.
Did he do the Disney thing, or
yeah,
go fishing, or what was Eddie doing down in Florida?
He was at Disney with the family. Hopefully got me some Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, there you go. We'll be sharing with both of us. He'll be sharing Eagle Insight. Don't know if he'll be sharing mouse ears. And when we come back, I do want to run something past John. Very important. Very important. Once again, mouth, tongue in cheek. I did see NFL power ratings today, John.
Oh, my. Those are important.
You talk about ridiculousness. All right, McDonald